Some genres ask you to think. Action asks you to hold on. 50 years of gunfire, car chases, martial arts, and one-liners have built a genre that runs almost entirely on pure adrenaline, and yet somehow still finds room for real craft underneath all that chaos. This is Movie Blanket Club, and today we are counting down our picks for the 50 best action movies ever made. One quick warning, our number one pick is a sun-scorched Australian chase film that we are ranking above the genre's own most quoted classic, and we think we can defend it. Grab your blanket and buckle up. Number 50. Commando, 1985. A retired Special Forces colonel's peaceful life is shattered when his daughter is kidnapped by a deposed dictator's mercenaries, forcing him back into action for one relentless day of rescue that leaves an entire private army in ruins behind him. Arnold Schwarzenegger anchors the film with pure, committed physicality, treating the increasingly absurd body count with a gleeful lack of self-seriousness that became a defining template for 80s action stardom. Its plot logic is thin even by the standards of the genre, existing mainly as connective tissue between elaborately staged shootouts and one-liners. That thinness is very much part of the appeal. A lean, muscular slice of pure 80s excess that never once pretends to be anything more than a delivery system for spectacle. Its climactic greenhouse assault remains a genuinely inventive set piece within the chaos. Radon Chong's reluctant flight attendant sidekick adds welcome comic energy throughout. Schwarzenegger reportedly filmed the entire climax in a single day, an unusually fast shoot for a sequence involving this much stage destruction. Our pick for the most purely muscular entry on this list, action stripped down to its most gloriously uncomplicated form. Number 49. Bloodsport 1988. An American soldier goes AWOL to compete in an illegal full-contact martial arts tournament held in Hong Kong, honoring the memory of the master who trained him while facing increasingly dangerous opponents in a no-holds-barred fighting style few Western fighters have ever survived. Jean-Claude Van Damme's breakout starring role showcases his genuine martial arts background, with the film's tournament structure giving his athletic, high-kicking style room to breathe across an escalating series of bouts. Its plot, loosely inspired by dubious real-life claims, has been widely disputed by historians and journalists since release. That disputed origin barely dampens the film's real appeal. A lean tournament fighter structure that became hugely influential on the entire martial arts action subgenre that followed. Its climactic showdown against the fearsome Chong Li remains a genre highlight. Bolo Yeung's towering, menacing performance anchors the film's most memorable confrontations. The film's real tournament promoter has never been officially verified, despite decades of speculation from fans trying to confirm the story's factual basis. Our pick for the most influential tournament structure on this list, a template countless fight films would borrow from directly. Number 48, Hard Target, 1993. A homeless Cajun drifter with elite combat training helps a young woman investigate her father's disappearance, uncovering a horrifying underground operation in which wealthy clients pay to hunt homeless veterans for sport through the streets and bayous of New Orleans. Director John Woo's first American production translates his balletic Hong Kong action style, doves, slow motion, elaborate gunplay, into a Hollywood budget with real visual confidence, even as studio interference reportedly trimmed some of his more ambitious set pieces. Jean-Claude Van Damme anchors the physical action with his usual athletic commitment, though the film's Americanized sensibility divided fans of Woo's more operatic Hong Kong work. That stylistic collision is exactly what makes the film a genuine curiosity, a legitimate auteur's signature visual language forced through the machinery of a 90s action vehicle. Its climactic warehouse showdown remains a genuine highlight of Woo's early American period. Lance Henriksen makes for a memorably cold, controlled villain. Woo has said the finished cut removed nearly 20 minutes of footage after test screenings, trimming several sequences he considered essential to the film's rhythm. Our pick for the most stylistically distinctive entry on this list, Hong Kong balletic violence transplanted into the American South. Number 47, Desperado, 1995. A guitar case-wielding gunslinger crosses the Mexican border hunting the drug lord responsible for his lover's death and his own disfigurement, cutting a bloody, stylized path through a string of cantinas and hideouts on his way to a final reckoning. Director Robert Rodriguez expands on his own micro-budget debut El Mariachi with real visual confidence, staging gunfights with an operatic, almost musical rhythm that treats violence as pure kinetic choreography. Antonio Banderas anchors the title role with smoldering, near-mythic cool, while Salma Hayek's breakout performance opposite him crackles with real chemistry. Its heightened, near-fantastical tone occasionally prioritizes style over narrative coherence, a trade-off that suits the film's comic book sensibility more than strict realism. That style is precisely the appeal, a gloriously over-the-top vision of the American Southwest rendered as pure widescreen spectacle. Its bar shootout centerpiece remains an authentic highlight of 90s action filmmaking. Rodriguez shot the film on a substantially larger budget than his debut, allowing him to finally execute several set pieces he had been forced to cut years earlier. Our pick for the most stylish entry on this list, gunfights choreographed like music. Number 46, Con Air, 1997. A newly paroled ex-convict flying home aboard a prisoner transport plane finds himself trapped mid-air when his fellow inmates, a collection of the country's most dangerous criminals, violently hijack the aircraft, forcing him to protect the remaining hostages while keeping his own parole intact. Director Simon West and producer Jerry Bruckheimer lean fully into maximalist 90s spectacle, treating each new complication as an excuse for another explosive set piece rather than dwelling on realism. Nicolas Cage anchors the chaos with an unusually restrained, soft-spoken performance that contrasts sharply against John Malkovich and Steve Buscemi's gleefully unhinged supporting turns as fellow inmates. Its plotting leans heavily on genre convention and colorful criminal archetypes rather than deep characterization. That colorfulness is entirely the appeal, a gloriously over-the-top ensemble of memorable villains sharing a single doomed flight. Its climactic Las Vegas Strip crash landing remains a genuinely spectacular practical set piece. Cage reportedly based his character's soft-spoken cadence on a real Alabama death row inmate he had researched for an earlier unrelated role. Our pick for the most purely entertaining ensemble on this list, a plane full of criminals somehow becoming must-watch chaos. Number 45, Face Off, 1997. An FBI agent obsessed with capturing a terrorist responsible for his son's death undergoes an experimental face transplant procedure to infiltrate the criminal's organization, only for the comatose terrorist to wake up, steal the agent's face in turn, and step directly into his target's entire life. Director John Woo brings his full operatic Hong Kong sensibility to this gloriously absurd premise, staging doves and slow-motion gunfights with total sincerity despite the story's inherent silliness. John Travolta and Nicolas Cage both play both roles across the runtime, each mimicking the other's established mannerisms once the face swap occurs. A genuinely committed dual performance trick that could easily have collapsed into camp. Its premise demands total suspension of disbelief from viewers unwilling to simply accept the film's own operatic logic. That total commitment is exactly why the film endures as a cult favorite, treating a ridiculous premise with complete, unblinking sincerity throughout. Its church shootout remains a genre high point of pure balletic violence. Travolta and Cage reportedly studied footage of each other's mannerisms extensively before filming began, refining the performance swap scene by scene. Our pick for the most gloriously committed entry on this list, absurdity played with total operatic conviction. Number 44, The Rock, 1996. A rogue general seizes control of Alcatraz Island and threatens San Francisco with chemical weapons, forcing an FBI chemist and the only man to ever escape the island's supposedly inescapable prison to team up and infiltrate the fortress before the deadline expires. director Michael Bay delivers what many consider his most disciplined and effective work, balancing maximalist spectacle with sincere character chemistry between his mismatched leads. Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage anchor the film with a truly entertaining odd couple dynamic, playing off each other's contrasting energy across the escalating infiltration. Its plotting leans heavily on genre convention, and Ed Harris's sympathetic villain occasionally strains credibility given his stated motivations. That strain barely dampens the film's real momentum, a tightly constructed ticking clock thriller that earns its reputation as one of the finest 90s action blockbusters. Its Alcatraz assault sequences remain really tense set pieces throughout. Connery initially turned down the role before being persuaded back with a rewritten script that gave his character considerably more screen presence. The film went on to become one of the year's biggest box office hits, cementing Bay's reputation as a bankable studio director for the following decade. Our pick for the most disciplined blockbuster entry on this list: maximalist spectacle held together by real character chemistry. Number 43, True Lies, 1994. A secret agent who has spent his entire marriage hiding his real profession from his oblivious wife finds his double life colliding catastrophically with hers when both a terrorist plot and his wife's own secret discontent explode into the open on the very same night. Director James Cameron blends large-scale spy thriller action with unmistakably sharp domestic comedy, treating the marriage's collapse and reconciliation with real emotional stakes alongside the espionage plot. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis anchor the shifting tones with real comic chemistry, particularly during an extended sequence forcing her character into unexpected field action. Its broad comedic elements and dated gender dynamics have aged less gracefully than the film's technical action craft. That craft remains plainly spectacular regardless, particularly a jaw-dropping Harrier jet sequence that showcases Cameron's meticulous practical effects command. Its blend of comedy, romance, and large-scale spectacle proved hugely influential on the genre. Cameron reportedly rebuilt several scenes from the French film the story was based on almost shot for shot before expanding into the larger action sequences. Our pick for the most tonally ambitious entry on this list: espionage thriller and marriage comedy fused into one blockbuster. Number 42, Speed, 1994. A Los Angeles transit bus is rigged with a bomb that will detonate the moment its speed drops below 50 miles per hour, forcing a young cop and a resourceful passenger to keep the vehicle racing through city traffic while searching for any way to disarm the device or save everyone aboard. Director Jan de Bont, a longtime cinematographer making his directorial debut, stages the film's confined, relentless tension with real visual clarity, keeping the geography of each set piece legible even amid constant chaos. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock anchor the film with unmistakable, easy chemistry that helped launch both actors toward major stardom. Its high-concept premise leaves little room for anything beyond pure forward momentum, a deliberate trade-off some viewers find thin on characterization. That singular focus is exactly the film's strength, a masterclass in sustained, unbroken tension built entirely around one relentless, elegantly simple mechanical problem. Dennis Hopper's gleefully unhinged villain anchors the mounting stakes throughout. De Bont has said the bus itself was mounted on a modified flatbed truck for several sequences, allowing camera crews to capture continuous highway footage safely. Our pick for the most efficiently constructed entry on this list: 90 minutes of tension that never once lets the bus slow down. Number 41, Point Break, 1991. A young FBI agent goes undercover among a tight-knit community of surfers suspected of funding their adrenaline-fueled lifestyle through a string of bank robberies, only to find himself thoroughly seduced by the gang's charismatic leader and his philosophy of living entirely in the moment. Director Catherine Bigelow blends bank heist thriller mechanics with true philosophical yearning, treating the undercover agent's growing loyalty conflict as seriously as the film's elaborate action sequences. Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze anchor the central relationship with real, charged intensity that gives the eventual betrayal honest emotional weight. Its earnest philosophical dialogue about freedom and mortality has occasionally been mocked as overwrought by less sympathetic viewers. That earnestness is precisely why the film has endured as a beloved cult classic, treating adrenaline junkie machismo with unfeigned sincerity rather than ironic distance. Its skydiving sequences remain technically impressive practical achievements for their era. Bigelow performed several of her own stunts during pre-production testing to better understand the physical demands she was asking of her cast. Our pick for the most philosophically sincere entry on this list, a heist thriller that wholly means every word about chasing the ultimate rush. Number 40, Lethal Weapon, 1987. A steady, by-the-book Los Angeles detective is partnered against his will with a suicidal, unpredictable narcotics cop. An uneasy pairing that gradually becomes earnest friendship as the mismatched duo investigates a case that reaches deep into a dangerous drug smuggling conspiracy. Director Richard Donner essentially codified the modern buddy cop template here, balancing startlingly dark psychological material, the younger cop's suicidal ideation following his wife's death, against crowd-pleasing action and comedy in a combination that felt unusually fresh at the time. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover anchor the mismatched partnership with real, lived-in chemistry that carried the franchise across several sequels. Its willingness to treat mental health struggles seriously within an otherwise crowd-pleasing action framework was unusually bold for a mainstream blockbuster of its era. That balance between darkness and levity became hugely influential, essentially defining the buddy cop formula that dozens of imitators would chase for the following decade. Its climactic showdown remains a genre high point. Gibson reportedly improvised several of his characters' more unhinged line deliveries, many of which made it into the finished theatrical cut. The partnership between Gibson and Glover proved commercially durable enough to sustain 3 additional sequels over the following 12 years. Our pick for the most influential entry on this list, the buddy cop template nearly every subsequent pairing still answers to. Number 39, First Blood, 1982. A troubled Vietnam veteran drifting through a small American town is harassed and arrested by a hostile local sheriff. A confrontation that triggers a violent post-traumatic breakdown and sends the highly trained former Green Beret into the surrounding wilderness in a desperate one-man war against the entire police force hunting him. Sylvester Stallone anchors the film with a deeply wounded, sympathetic performance that treats the veteran's trauma with real seriousness rather than pure action spectacle, a tone considerably more grounded than the character's more explosively cartoonish sequels. Director Ted Kotcheff stages the wilderness survival sequences with real tension, treating Rambo as an authentically tragic figure failed by the country he fought for rather than an invincible action hero. Its ending, softened somewhat from the source novel's considerably bleaker conclusion, still carries real emotional weight. That grounded seriousness has often been overshadowed by the character's later franchise reputation, a disservice to the original film's legitimate dramatic ambition. Stallone rewrote significant portions of the ending during production, softening the novel's considerably bleaker conclusion after studio concerns. Our pick for the most emotionally serious entry on this list, an action icon's origin rooted in real, unresolved trauma. Number 38, Predator, 1987. An elite paramilitary rescue team sent into the Central American jungle on a covert mission discovers they are being systematically hunted by an invisible, technologically advanced alien trophy hunter, forcing the heavily armed soldiers to abandon their weapons' first instincts entirely once conventional firepower proves useless. Director John McTiernan structures the film as 2 distinct halves: muscular military action spectacle giving way to lean survival horror tension once the true nature of the threat reveals itself. Arnold Schwarzenegger anchors the ensemble with committed physicality, though the film's real innovation lies in stripping away his character's usual invincibility entirely once the alien becomes the clear apex predator. Its now iconic creature design, developed after an earlier, widely mocked concept was scrapped mid-production, remains one of the genre's most distinctive practical creations. That late redesign proved transformative, giving the film a convincingly menacing antagonist worthy of its build-up. Its jungle setting turns lush terrain into something actively hostile. The suit for the alien creature required multiple different actors across production, including a young Jean-Claude Van Damme in an early, later discarded design. Our pick for the most cleverly structured entry on this list, a war movie that quietly becomes a monster movie. Number 37, Total Recall, 1990. A construction worker haunted by recurring dreams of Mars purchases an artificial memory implant promising the experience of a secret agent vacation, only for the procedure to unravel his entire sense of reality, revealing he may already be a secret agent whose true memories were erased entirely. Director Paul Verhoeven, adapting a Philip K. Dick short story, blends large-scale 80s action spectacle with undeniably unsettling questions about identity and manufactured reality that the film never fully resolves for the audience either. Arnold Schwarzenegger anchors the escalating paranoia with real physical commitment, even as the story keeps deliberately undermining his characters and the audience's grip on what is actually happening. Its extensive practical effects and prosthetic work have dated in places, though the film's authentic ambiguity about its own reality remains a rare quality in a big-budget action vehicle. That ambiguity elevates the film considerably beyond typical genre spectacle, using pulpy Martian action as a sincere vehicle for real philosophical unease. Its Mars-set climax remains visually inventive throughout. Verhoeven reportedly clashed repeatedly with the studio over the film's violence, trimming several sequences to secure a commercially viable rating. Our pick for the most philosophically unsettling entry on this list, spectacle that never once confirms what you just watched actually happened. Number 36, RoboCop, 1987. A Detroit police officer murdered in the line of duty is resurrected by a ruthless corporation as a cyborg law enforcement unit, his fragmented human memories slowly resurfacing even as the company that built him plots to use his programming for their own corrupt ends. Director Paul Verhoeven smuggles noticeably sharp satire about corporate greed, privatized policing, and media saturation beneath a surface of gleeful, ultra-violent spectacle, a combination that flew over some contemporary viewers entirely. Peter Weller's performance beneath heavy prosthetic armor still manages real, aching pathos as fragments of the character's lost humanity resurface throughout the story. Its extreme violence, once controversial enough to draw multiple censorship battles, remains a deliberate provocation rather than simple excess. That provocation carries real purpose, using shocking spectacle to sharpen rather than dilute the film's pointed satirical target. Its practical RoboCop suit design remains a markedly iconic piece of creature and costume craft. The suit's weight reportedly caused Weller considerable physical strain during filming, limiting takes and requiring frequent rest between setups. Verhoeven has said the film's satirical commercials and news segments were partly improvised during editing, added later to sharpen the finished tone. Our pick for the smartest entry on this list, satire disguised as an ultra-violent cyborg action spectacle. Number 35, The Terminator, 1984. A relentless cyborg assassin is sent back through time from a devastated future to kill the woman destined to give birth to humanity's future resistance leader, while a lone soldier sent to protect her races against an unstoppable killing machine that literally cannot be bargained with or stopped. Director James Cameron, working on a modest budget years before his blockbuster reputation solidified, blends science fiction dread with lean, relentless slasher movie pacing, treating the Terminator itself as an unstoppable force of pure mechanical menace. Arnold Schwarzenegger's icy, near-wordless performance turned an unlikely leading man into an unmistakable genre icon through pure physical presence alone. Its low-budget effects occasionally show their age against the franchise's own more technically ambitious sequel. That scrappiness barely dampens the film's real power. A lean, propulsive B-movie premise executed with true directorial confidence and real emotional stakes for its human leads. Its time loop structure remains cleverly, elegantly constructed. Cameron wrote the original screenplay in a matter of weeks, reportedly while sick with a fever that partly inspired the story's nightmarish tone. Our pick for the most influential entry on this list: science fiction dread that launched an entire blockbuster career. Number 34, Air Force One, 1997. Russian nationalist terrorists hijacked the presidential plane mid-flight, taking the first family hostage and demanding the release of an imprisoned general. Unaware the president himself is a decorated combat veteran fully prepared to fight back and retake his own aircraft from the inside. Director Wolfgang Petersen stages the confined hijacking with real claustrophobic tension, using the aircraft's tight corridors and cabins to sustain escalating stakes across the runtime. Harrison Ford anchors the film with his trademark everyman gravity, lending real conviction to the somewhat far-fetched premise of a sitting president single-handedly repelling armed hijackers. Its patriotic wish fulfillment premise leans unapologetically into 90s American blockbuster jingoism, a tone that has aged into a specific nostalgic time capsule. That unabashed confidence is very much the appeal, delivering exactly the crowd-pleasing spectacle its premise promises without ever second-guessing itself. Gary Oldman's committed, ruthless villain anchors the mounting tension throughout. Petersen had the production build a detailed section of the aircraft's interior on a soundstage rather than relying on an actual retired plane. Our pick for the most unapologetically crowd-pleasing entry on this list: presidential wish fulfillment played with total commitment. Number 33, Enter the Dragon, 1973. A Shaolin martial artist is recruited by British intelligence to infiltrate a reclusive crime lord's private island tournament, using the guise of competition to gather evidence of the host's criminal empire while settling a personal score of his own along the way. Bruce Lee anchors the film with career-defining physical charisma, his precise, explosive fighting style elevating even straightforward tournament set pieces into honest showcases of real martial arts mastery. Released only 6 days after Lee's sudden death, the film became both a commercial phenomenon and a poignant final showcase for an icon whose full potential the industry never got to see fully realized. Its plotting leans on fairly conventional spy thriller mechanics, existing mainly as a frame for Lee's extraordinary physical performance. That frame proved hugely influential regardless, essentially introducing authentic martial arts choreography to mainstream Western action cinema for the first time at this scale. Its Hall of Mirrors climactic showdown remains a genre landmark. Lee reportedly choreographed several of the film's fight sequences himself, adjusting camera placement personally to capture his own technique clearly. Lee had reportedly completed only a fraction of his planned scenes before his death, requiring careful editing to assemble the finished cut. Our pick for the most historically foundational entry on this list: the film that brought real martial arts mastery to a global audience. Number 32, Ong-Bak, 2003. A young Muay Thai practitioner travels from his rural Thai village to Bangkok to recover his community's stolen sacred Buddha statue head, a mission that plunges him into the criminal underworld of black market fighting rings and increasingly elaborate chase sequences across the city. Star Tony Jaa performs every stunt entirely without wires, harnesses, or digital effects, a deliberate throwback commitment that gives the film's fight and chase choreography a startling, tangible physical weight. Director Prachya Pinkayu structures the film almost entirely around escalating physical set pieces, with plot serving mainly as connective tissue between increasingly dangerous practical stunt work. Its thin characterization and repetitive structure will not surprise viewers who understand exactly what kind of showcase the film is built to deliver. That showcase remains truly breathtaking, reintroducing raw, unenhanced physical stunt work to a global audience grown accustomed to wire-assisted, and digitally enhanced spectacle. Its market chase sequence remains a genre benchmark for pure practical stunt craft. Jia spent years training specifically for the film's stunt work, reportedly breaking bones on set rather than allow a stunt double to complete key sequences. Our pick for the most physically committed entry on this list, action with absolutely no safety net. Number 31. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 2000. A legendary swordswoman and a warrior bound by decades of unspoken love pursue a stolen mystical sword and its headstrong young thief across 19th century China, their martial arts mastery inseparable from the deep. Restrained emotion, neither of them ever quite allows themselves to express. Director Ang Lee elevates wire-fu choreography to unfeigned poetic heights, staging gravity-defying rooftop and bamboo forest duels with the same emotional precision he brings to the film's quieter, more restrained dramatic scenes. Its deliberately measured pace and emphasis on restrained longing over pure spectacle occasionally frustrate viewers expecting a more conventional action showcase throughout. That restraint is inseparable from the film's real power, treating breathtaking physical combat as a direct extension of the characters' suppressed inner lives rather than pure visual spectacle. Its bamboo forest duel remains one of the most beautifully composed action sequences ever filmed. The film's massive international crossover success opened doors for wuxia cinema worldwide. Lee shot several sequences at extreme altitude in the Gobi Desert, reportedly battling difficult weather conditions throughout much of production. Our pick for the most poetically composed entry on this list, martial arts choreography used as pure unspoken emotion. Number 30. Hard Boiled, 1992. A grief-driven Hong Kong detective determined to avenge his partner's death teams up with a mysterious undercover cop embedded deep within a ruthless arms smuggling operation, their combined investigation culminating in an escalating series of increasingly audacious gun battles across the city. Director John Woo choreographs gunfights with an almost musical, balletic precision, treating each exchange of fire as carefully composed spectacle rather than chaotic mayhem. Chow Yun-fat anchors the film with effortless, magnetic cool, carrying the emotional and physical weight of the escalating violence throughout. Its plotting remains fairly functional, existing largely to connect one increasingly elaborate action set piece to the next across the runtime. That escalation builds toward the legendary hospital siege finale, a sustained, single-location gun battle shot with real technical ambition that remains one of action cinema's most purely audacious sequences. Its influence on Hollywood gunplay choreography is difficult to overstate. Wu has cited the hospital finale as his personal favorite sequence in his entire filmography, reportedly rewriting it several times before settling on the final version. Our pick for the most technically audacious entry on this list, gunfights choreographed like an opera nobody survives. Number 29. Kill Bill, Volume 1, 2003. A former assassin left for dead at her own wedding awakens from a 4-year coma and sets out on a meticulously planned revenge mission against the former colleagues and lover who betrayed her, working systematically down a list of targets, one increasingly elaborate confrontation at a time. Director Quentin Tarantino fuses samurai cinema, Hong Kong martial arts, Japanese animation, and spaghetti western iconography into one gloriously maximalist genre collage, treating the revenge story as an excuse for pure cinematic homage. Uma Thurman anchors the title role with ferocious physical commitment, carrying the film's escalating violence with real steely conviction throughout. Its structure, deliberately non-linear and unapologetically stylized, prioritizes genre pastiche over grounded realism at every turn. That pastiche is entirely the point, an earnest love letter to decades of global genre cinema filtered through Tarantino's own distinctive sensibility. Its House of Blue Leaves showdown remains one of the most elaborately staged sword fights ever filmed. Tarantino originally conceived the story as a single film before deciding during editing to split it into 2 separate theatrical releases. Our pick for the most gleefully referential entry on this list: revenge cinema as an entire genre history collapsed into one film. Number 28. Oldboy, 2003. A man imprisoned without explanation in a private cell for 15 years is suddenly released with no answers, given only days to discover who orchestrated his captivity and why. A search that spirals into an increasingly brutal and psychologically devastating revenge mission. Director Park Chan-wook stages the film's violence with real visceral intensity, most famously in a single-take corridor fight against dozens of attackers that remains one of the most technically demanding action sequences ever filmed. Choi Min-sik anchors the mounting desperation with a raw, physically committed performance that carries the story's escalating psychological horror alongside its action. Its shocking, deeply disturbing final revelations push the story well beyond typical revenge thriller territory into really upsetting psychological terrain. That willingness to go further than expected is exactly why the film has become a landmark of international genre cinema, using brutal physical action as the entry point into something far darker underneath. Its hammer corridor sequence remains a genre-defining set piece. Choi reportedly trained for months specifically for the corridor fight sequence, which was completed in a limited number of takes despite its technical difficulty. The film swept South Korea's major domestic film awards the following year, further cementing Park's international reputation as a filmmaker. Our pick for the most psychologically devastating entry on this list: action filmmaking in service of real, lasting horror. Number 27. The Man from Nowhere, 2010. A withdrawn pawn shop owner with a mysterious, violent past becomes the only person willing to help when his young neighbor is kidnapped by an organ trafficking ring, unleashing a set of lethal skills the quiet local community never suspected he possessed. Director Lee Jong-byum stages the escalating rescue mission with brutal, tightly choreographed close-quarters combat, giving each confrontation real tactile weight rather than stylized excess. Won Bin anchors the title role with a controlled, wounded intensity that makes the character's eventual explosive violence feel unmistakably earned rather than gratuitous. Its plotting draws on fairly familiar revenge thriller mechanics, elevated considerably by the sheer craft of its execution. That execution proved hugely influential across Korean action cinema, helping cement the country's reputation for visceral, technically disciplined genre filmmaking throughout the following decade. Its climactic knife duel remains a legitimate highlight of modern hand-to-hand choreography. Won Bin underwent extensive physical training for the role, reportedly losing significant weight to convey the character's withdrawn, hollowed-out state. Our pick for the most tightly disciplined entry on this list: restrained grief detonating into precisely controlled violence. Number 26. The Night Comes for Us, 2018. A former enforcer for a ruthless criminal triad breaks ranks to save a young girl from a massacre he was ordered to carry out, setting his entire former organization and its army of equally lethal killers on a collision course with his own reluctant conscience. Director Timo Tchajanto stages the violence with an almost unbroken, punishing intensity, favoring extended practical combat sequences that prioritize brutal physical realism over stylized excess. Joe Taslim and Iko Uwais, both alumni of the Raid films, anchor the escalating confrontations with real martial arts credibility and real physical chemistry as former allies turned adversaries. Its relentless, near-constant violence pushes well past typical action genre limits into something considerably more punishing and grueling to sit through. That punishing intensity is very much the point. A plainly uncompromising vision of hand-to-hand combat rarely matched for sheer sustained brutality elsewhere on this list. Its narrow hallway knife battle remains a genre highlight. Uwais and Taslim both return to choreographed portions of their own fight sequences, drawing directly on techniques developed during their earlier collaborations. Our pick for the most punishing entry on this list: combat choreography with absolutely no interest in holding back. Number 25, The Villainess, 2017. A woman raised from childhood as a trained assassin is recruited into a secret government agency following a brutal act of vengeance, forced to navigate a new identity, a fragile chance at motherhood, and an ever-present past that refuses to stay buried behind her. Director Jung Byung-gil opens the film with an audacious first-person corridor massacre sequence, immersing the audience directly inside the protagonist's own perspective before pulling back into more conventional, still ferociously kinetic, action filmmaking. Kim Ok-vin anchors the emotionally fractured lead role with real physical and dramatic commitment throughout the escalating betrayals surrounding her. Its non-linear structure, jumping between timelines to reveal the character's traumatic history, occasionally makes the plot difficult to follow on a first viewing. That structural ambition is matched by thoroughly inventive action staging, including a bus-set sword fight that ranks among the genre's most audaciously choreographed sequences. Its opening sequence alone reshaped expectations for what first-person action could achieve. Jung storyboarded the opening sequence extensively before filming, planning camera movement in advance to maintain the illusion of one continuous take. Our pick for the most technically audacious entry on this list, assassin cinema filmed like a fever dream you cannot look away from. Number 24, Atomic Blonde, 2017. An elite MI6 agent is sent to divided Berlin just before the walls collapse to recover a list of double agents, navigating a wholly treacherous web of Cold War spy games in which absolutely no one, ally or enemy, can be fully trusted. Director David Leitch, a veteran stunt coordinator making his solo directorial debut, stages the film's combat with brutal, exhausting realism, most famously in a stairwell sequence shot to appear as a single unbroken take that leaves both fighters visibly, believably spent by its end. Charlize Theron performed a substantial portion of her own stunts, lending the punishing close-quarters fights real tangible weight and consequence. Its plotting layers genre-typical spy thriller double-crosses fairly densely, occasionally prioritizing atmosphere and needle drops over strict narrative clarity. That atmosphere is an authentic asset regardless, drenched in neon-lit 80s production design and a meticulously curated period soundtrack throughout. Its stairwell fight remains a modern action landmark. Theron reportedly trained for months ahead of filming, requesting minimal edits during the stairwell sequence to preserve its unbroken, exhausting realism. Our pick for the most punishingly realistic entry on this list, spy thriller glamour colliding with startlingly exhausting combat. Number 23, Léon. The Professional, 1994. A solitary, near-wordless hitman reluctantly takes in the 12-year-old girl next door after her family is murdered by corrupt narcotics agents, forming an unlikely bond that gradually teaches her his lethal trade while awakening something like real feeling in a man who has spent his entire life avoiding it. Director Luc Besson blends stylish, exactly choreographed assassination sequences with the unusually tender, if deeply uncomfortable, central relationship that has remained a point of real critical debate since release. Jean Reno's controlled, almost childlike performance as Léon anchors the film's emotional core, while Natalie Portman's startling debut carries real weight well beyond her age at the time of filming. Its central dynamic, an adult assassin and a preteen girl growing steadily closer, has drawn legitimate discomfort and criticism that the film's sincere craft does not fully resolve. That tension aside, the film's action sequences and Gary Oldman's gloriously unhinged villain remain genre high points of 90s genre filmmaking. Besson cast Portman after an extensive search, reportedly drawn to her audition despite her limited acting experience at the time. Our pick for the most emotionally complicated entry on this list, tenderness and violence uneasily intertwined. Number 22, Kingsman. The Secret Service, 2014. A troubled young man from a rough London estate is recruited into a secret, impeccably tailored spy organization, training alongside privileged rivals for a coveted position while a wealthy tech mogul's dangerously unhinged plot threatens the entire world. Director Matthew Vaughn blends stylized, ultra-violent action choreography with a gleeful, self-aware send-up of traditional spy movie tropes, treating gentlemanly Bond-style elegance as the setup for gloriously over-the-top mayhem. Its infamous church brawl sequence, a single unbroken set piece of exuberant, cartoonish mayhem set incongruously against a gentle hymn, remains one of the most audaciously staged action sequences of the decade. Taron Egerton's breakout lead performance anchors the class-conscious coming-of-age story with real charisma. Its gleeful genre subversion occasionally tips into excess that not every viewer finds as much fun as the film clearly intends. That excess is very much the entire appeal. Gleeful spy movie pastiche executed with unmistakable visual invention. Vaughn choreographed the church sequence to a single continuous piece of music, timing the violence to the song's rhythm throughout the shoot. Our pick for the most gleefully irreverent entry on this list: spy genre tropes detonated with real style. Number 21, Baby Driver, 2017. A young getaway driver with permanent tinnitus who drowns out the constant ringing with a carefully curated soundtrack playing through his earbuds at all times tries to walk away from his criminal obligations just as one final job spirals catastrophically out of control. Director Edgar Wright choreographs the film's car chases, gunfights, and even walking scenes to sync directly with its wall-to-wall soundtrack, treating music not as background accompaniment, but as the film's actual structural backbone. Ansel Elgort anchors the title role with understated, rhythm-driven precision that suits the film's musical conceit perfectly throughout. Its heightened, near-musical stylization occasionally prioritizes technical rhythm over grounded plausibility, a trade-off entirely by design rather than oversight. That rhythm-first approach produces some of the most inventively choreographed car chases in recent action cinema. Each stunt cuts squarely to its accompanying track. Its practical, largely stunt-driven car work remains authentically impressive throughout. Wright reportedly spent years assembling the soundtrack before writing the script, building several scenes directly around specific songs he had already chosen. Our pick for the most musically inventive entry on this list, a heist thriller built entirely around its own soundtrack. Number 20, Casino Royale, 2006. Newly promoted to 00 status, a considerably rougher, more brutal, James Bond pursues a financier funding global terrorism through a high-stakes poker tournament, a mission complicated by his own dangerous true feelings for the Treasury agent assigned to monitor him. Rebooting the franchise from scratch, director Martin Campbell and star Daniel Craig strip away decades of accumulated gadgetry and quips in favor of a considerably grittier, more physically brutal take on the character, closer to Ian Fleming's original novels than the series' more theatrical recent entries. Its poker-heavy midsection trades pure action for tension of a different kind, a deliberate pacing choice that rewards patient viewers with real psychological stakes. That grounded reinvention proved hugely influential, effectively resetting an entire franchise's tone and helping usher in a considerably more grounded era of blockbuster spy filmmaking. Its parkour chase opening remains one of the most purely kinetic sequences the series has ever produced. Craig reportedly trained extensively in the months before filming, adopting a considerably more physical approach to the role than several of his predecessors. Craig would go on to reprise the role across 4 subsequent films, ultimately becoming one of the longest-serving actors in the franchise's history. Our pick for the most successful reinvention on this list, a 50-year-old franchise rebuilt from the ground up. Number 19. Extraction, 2020. A black market mercenary with nothing left to lose is hired to rescue the kidnapped son of an imprisoned Indian crime lord from a rival gang stronghold in Dhaka, a straightforward extraction that spirals into an increasingly desperate fight through the entire city's criminal underworld. Director Sam Hargrave, a veteran stunt coordinator making his directorial debut, stages the film's centerpiece around a stunning single-take action sequence weaving through cars, rooftops, and hand-to-hand combat across a sustained, technically extraordinary 12 minutes. Chris Hemsworth anchors the physical toll with real committed grit, playing the mercenary's exhaustion and mounting injuries with unusual grounded realism for the genre. Its plotting leans on fairly familiar action thriller mechanics, existing largely in service of the film's convincingly extraordinary practical stunt work. That stunt work alone justifies its inclusion here. A single sustained set piece that reshaped expectations for what long-take action choreography could achieve on a streaming budget. Its bridge chase sequence remains an honest modern benchmark. Hargrave rehearsed the extended single-take sequence for weeks with his stunt team before filming, planning camera handoffs between crew members in advance. Hargrave has said the sequence took several weeks of rehearsal to choreograph safely, coordinating dozens of crew members across the shifting locations. Our pick for the single most technically exceptional set piece on this list, one unbroken sequence built to be studied for years. Number 18. Nobody. 2021. A seemingly unremarkable suburban father, dismissed by his own family as thoroughly boring, reveals a lethal, long-dormant set of skills after a home invasion pushes him past his limit, setting off an escalating war against a Russian crime syndicate that badly underestimated exactly who they were dealing with. Director Ilya Naishuller stages the escalating violence with a scrappy, increasingly gleeful intensity, treating the protagonist's gradual reawakening as darkly comic release rather than pure grim vengeance. Bob Odenkirk, cast dramatically against his usual comedic type, anchors the transformation with unfeigned physical commitment that makes the character's hidden lethality land as a real surprise rather than a predictable reveal. Its plot draws open. Deliberate inspiration from other suburban assassin premises, a debt the film wears with self-aware confidence rather than concealment. That confidence pays off in an undeniably enjoyable, blackly comic action throwback that never once takes its own absurd premise too seriously. Its bus fight sequence remains an earnest highlight. Odenkirk trained for nearly a year ahead of filming, reportedly requesting a demanding physical regimen to convincingly sell the character's transformation. Our pick for the most purely enjoyable underdog entry on this list, boredom itself turned into a lethal weapon. Number 17. The Killer, 2023. A meticulous, philosophically detached contract killer's carefully maintained routine collapses after a job goes wrong, forcing him to confront the people responsible while his own rigid, self-justifying code of professional discipline slowly begins to crack under real pressure. Director David Fincher strips the assassin genre down to cold, procedural precision, following the title character's obsessive routines and internal monologue with a deliberately clinical, near-satirical distance from typical genre glamour. Michael Fassbender anchors the film with controlled, near-robotic stillness, letting small cracks in the character's carefully constructed self-image do the emotional work across the runtime. Its deliberately flat, ironic tone and refusal of typical action genre catharsis will disappoint viewers expecting a more conventionally thrilling assassin story. That flatness is very much the point, using genre mechanics to quietly critique the same detached professional mythology the character keeps reciting to himself. Its extended hand-to-hand apartment brawl remains a legitimate technical highlight. Fincher reportedly favored an unusually high number of takes per scene, a meticulous approach that became a defining, occasionally demanding hallmark of the shoot. Our pick for the most coldly precise entry on this list, assassin cinema turned into pointed self-critique. Number 16. Taken, 2008. A retired CIA operative's estranged relationship with his teenage daughter takes a horrifying turn when she is kidnapped by a human trafficking ring while traveling abroad, giving him a brutally narrow window and a very particular set of skills to track her down before she vanishes entirely. Director Pierre Morel stages the rescue mission with lean, propulsive efficiency, stripping away extraneous subplots in favor of relentless forward momentum once the kidnapping occurs. Liam Neeson's unexpected late career pivot to action stardom anchors the film with real gravitas, his now iconic phone call threat becoming one of the most widely quoted moments in modern action cinema. Its plotting leans on fairly straightforward revenge thriller mechanics, prioritizing momentum over deeper characterization throughout. That momentum proved hugely commercially successful regardless, launching both a franchise and an entirely new late-career subgenre of grizzled, everyman action stars. Its interrogation and rescue sequences remain efficiently, brutally effective. Neeson has said he was somewhat surprised by the film's commercial success, having initially expected a modest theatrical release rather than a franchise launch. Our pick for the most quotably influential entry on this list, a single phone call that reshaped an entire action subgenre. Number 15. The Expendables, 2010. A team of grizzled mercenaries accepts a dangerous mission to overthrow a corrupt Latin American dictator, a job that grows considerably more complicated once the team's moral conscience compels them to return for civilians they were originally paid to abandon. Director and star Sylvester Stallone assembles an enormous ensemble of action genre legends spanning several decades, treating the film as a deliberate, nostalgic celebration of practical, old-school action filmmaking in an era increasingly dominated by digital spectacle. Its plotting remains fairly functional, existing mainly as a frame for its stacked ensemble cast and old-fashioned practical stunt work. That nostalgic framing is entirely the appeal, an authentic love letter to the genre's 80s and 90s glory days delivered by many of the actors who originally defined it. Its climactic assault sequence delivers old-school practical spectacle at real scale. Jason Statham and Jet Li anchor the ensemble's hand-to-hand combat throughout. Stallone reportedly rewrote significant portions of the script to accommodate his large ensemble cast's differing schedules during a notoriously complicated shoot. The ensemble's combined star power reportedly drove much of the film's marketing, with several late additions to the cast confirmed only shortly before release. Our pick for the most purely nostalgic entry on this list, an entire generation of action icons sharing one last mission together. Number 14. 300 2006. 300 Spartan warriors, led by their fiercely proud king, make a legendary last stand against the vastly larger invading Persian army at the narrow mountain pass of Thermopylae, buying desperately needed time for the rest of Greece to mobilize against the coming invasion. Director Zack Snyder adapts Frank Miller's graphic novel with an unmistakably stylized visual approach, shooting almost entirely against green screen to render blood-soaked battle sequences with a hyper-saturated comic book intensity rarely attempted at this scale before. Gerard Butler anchors the title role with roaring, larger-than-life physicality that became instantly, widely memed across popular culture following release. Its historical liberties and heightened, deliberately mythologized tone prioritize operatic spectacle over any pretense of grounded historical accuracy. That operatic excess is entirely the point, treating ancient battle as pure stylized, slow-motion spectacle rather than sober historical drama. Its distinctive visual style proved hugely influential on subsequent stylized action filmmaking. Snyder shot principal photography almost entirely on a single soundstage, compositing digital backgrounds around the cast in post-production. Our pick for the most visually distinctive entry on this list, history rendered as pure comic book bloodletting. Number 13. Gladiator, 2000. A betrayed Roman general stripped of his rank and family by a jealous new emperor is sold into slavery and rises through the brutal ranks of gladiatorial combat, working his way toward a final reckoning inside the very Colosseum where the Empire's fate will ultimately be decided. Director Ridley Scott stages the arena combat with visceral, muddy brutality, treating each gladiatorial bout as both spectacle for the fictional Roman crowd and sincere, hard-won catharsis for the audience watching. Russell Crowe anchors the film with commanding, wounded gravitas, carrying the character's grief and controlled fury across the entire runtime. Its historical liberties draw real scrutiny from scholars, prioritizing dramatic momentum over strict period accuracy throughout. That dramatic momentum earned the film considerable awards recognition regardless, including Best Picture, a rarity for a film built so heavily around large-scale combat spectacle. Its opening Germania battle sequence remains a genre benchmark for large-scale practical staging. Crowe reportedly clashed with the production over the script during filming, contributing significant rewrites to several key scenes himself. The production reportedly built a scale replica of the Colosseum specifically for filming, one of the largest standing sets constructed in decades. Our pick for the most prestige-driven entry on this list, revenge spectacle elevated to unmistakable Best Picture stature. Number 12, Top Gun, Maverick 2022. Decades after the events of the original film, a still defiant naval aviator is called back to train a new generation of elite pilots for a near-impossible mission, forcing him to confront his own mortality, his complicated past, and the son of the wingman he lost all at once. Director Joseph Kosinski insisted on shooting the aerial combat sequences using real fighter jets with cameras mounted directly in the cockpits, giving the flight sequences a tangible, visceral realism almost entirely absent from typical digitally rendered aerial spectacle. Tom Cruise anchors the film with true emotional weight alongside the technical achievement, treating the legacy sequel's nostalgia with real earned sincerity rather than hollow fan service. Its emotional beats lean unabashedly into crowd-pleasing sentiment, a tone some more cynical viewers find calculated rather than earned. That sincerity paid off spectacularly with audiences regardless, becoming an honest cultural phenomenon and one of the highest-grossing films of its release year. Its Canyon Run finale remains a modern, practical filmmaking landmark. Cruise reportedly required every principal cast member to undergo real flight training before filming, ensuring each actor could tolerate the real aerial forces involved. Our pick for the most technically astonishing entry on this list, real jets pushing real actors to unfeigned physical limits. Number 11, Heat, 1995. A disciplined career criminal planning one final elaborate heist finds his meticulous professional code colliding directly with an equally obsessive homicide detective closing in on his crew. Two men who recognize themselves entirely in each other, despite standing on opposite sides of the law. Director Michael Mann treats the elaborate downtown Los Angeles bank robbery and its aftermath with documentary-level tactical precision, staging one of cinema's most technically accomplished shootouts amid otherwise patient, character-driven crime drama. Al Pacino and Robert De Niro anchor the film with the genre's most anticipated on-screen pairing, their single extended diner conversation carrying as much weight as any of the film's elaborate action sequences. Its considerable 3-hour runtime demands real patience from viewers expecting a leaner genre thriller rather than this novelistic scope. That patience is repaid with one of the genre's most fully realized, morally symmetrical crime epics, treating cop and criminal as earnest mirror images of each other. Its street shootout remains a benchmark for tactical realism. Mann had Pacino and De Niro rehearse their diner scene privately away from the rest of the crew, wanting their first real exchange preserved for the camera. Our pick for the most novelistically ambitious entry on this list, action elevated to legitimate patient crime epic stature. Number 10. The Bourne Ultimatum 2007. A rogue CIA-trained assassin still piecing together fragments of his own erased memory closes in on the Black Ops program responsible for creating him, evading assassination attempts across multiple countries, while a journalist's investigation threatens to expose the entire conspiracy publicly. Director Paul Greengrass refines the franchise's signature handheld, kinetically edited style into its most confident form yet, staging pursuit sequences across Waterloo Station, Tangier rooftops, and New York streets with real geographic and tactical clarity beneath the chaotic camera work. Matt Damon anchors the title role with coiled, economical physicality, treating each confrontation with cold, tactical precision rather than typical action hero swagger. Its rapid editing style, hugely influential across the genre afterward, has occasionally been imitated far less successfully by films lacking the same underlying spatial discipline. That discipline is exactly what elevates the film above its many imitators. Noticeably coherent action geography hiding beneath its restless, urgent surface. Its Tangier rooftop chase remains a genre benchmark. Greengrass used lightweight handheld cameras extensively throughout production, allowing his crew to move quickly through actual, crowded public locations. Our pick for the most influential modern entry on this list, the template nearly every handheld action thriller since has chased. Number 9. The Dark Knight, 2008. Gotham's vigilante protector faces his most dangerous adversary yet, an anarchic criminal mastermind with no discernible motive beyond pure chaos, whose escalating schemes push the city's police, its idealistic district attorney, and the vigilante's own moral code toward complete collapse. Director Christopher Nolan treats the superhero genre with unusually grounded, almost operatic crime thriller seriousness, staging elaborate practical action sequences including a truck flip filmed entirely in camera, with real weight and consequence rather than digital weightlessness. Heath Ledger's posthumously Oscar-winning performance as the Joker anchors the film's moral chaos with markedly unsettling, unpredictable menace that redefined the character for a generation. Its considerable ambition and thematic density occasionally strain against the demands of blockbuster pacing, a trade-off most critics and audiences found entirely worthwhile. That ambition helped permanently elevate mainstream expectations for what a comic book blockbuster could achieve dramatically and thematically. Its bank heist opening remains a genre benchmark for tension. Ledger reportedly kept a private journal in character during filming, a preparation method later cited by Nolan as central to the performance's unpredictable energy. The film became the first comic book adaptation nominated for major top-tier industry honors typically reserved for more overtly prestigious dramas. Our pick for the most thematically ambitious entry on this list, a superhero blockbuster that plays like a real crime epic. Number 8. The Matrix, 1999. A disillusioned computer programmer is recruited by a group of rebels who reveal that the world he has always known is actually an elaborate simulated reality, drawing him into a war against the machines that farm humanity while harnessing his own hidden potential to bend the simulation's rules entirely. The Wachowskis blend cutting-edge visual effects, most famously the bullet time technique that let cameras seemingly freeze and rotate around suspended action, with truly ambitious philosophical questions about free will, perception, and reality itself. Keanu Reeves anchors the story's awakening with understated conviction, while the film's wire-few-inflected fight choreography, trained under a veteran Hong Kong action choreographer, gave Western audiences an entirely new vocabulary for staged combat. Its dense philosophical framework occasionally sits uneasily alongside its blockbuster spectacle, though most audiences found the combination really thrilling rather than distracting. That combination proved massively, permanently influential, reshaping visual effects, fight choreography, and blockbuster philosophy for the following decade. Its lobby shootout remains a genre-defining sequence. The Wachowskis reportedly pitched the film using comic book panels rather than a traditional screenplay, hoping to better convey its distinct visual style to studio executives. Our pick for the most genre-redefining entry on this list, philosophy and spectacle fused into something entirely new. Number 7. Aliens, 1986. Decades after barely surviving her first encounter with a single deadly creature, a traumatized warrant officer reluctantly returns to the abandoned colony where it originated, this time accompanied by a squad of heavily armed Marines who quickly discover the situation involves considerably more than just one hostile organism. Director James Cameron transforms Ridley Scott's slow-burning original horror premise into a full-scale war film, trading claustrophobic dread for relentless, escalating military siege tension without sacrificing authentic character stakes along the way. Sigourney Weaver's Oscar-nominated performance anchors the film with real maternal ferocity. particularly once the story sharpens into a direct confrontation between two mothers protecting their respective young. Its tonal shift away from the original's horror-first approach divided some purists expecting a direct continuation of that specific atmosphere. That shift proved hugely successful regardless, widely considered among the finest sequels ever made directly because it expands the mythology rather than simply repeating the original's beats. Its power loader climax remains an iconic action set piece. Cameron rewrote significant portions of the script during pre-production after extensive consultation with real Marine veterans about tactical realism. Weaver reportedly trained extensively with the film's prop weapons ahead of filming, wanting her character's competence to read as authentic rather than performative. Our pick for the finest sequel reinvention on this list, horror expanded into full-scale war without losing what made the original work. Number 6. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. An adventurous archaeologist races Nazi agents across the globe to recover the legendarily powerful Ark of the Covenant before it falls into the hands of a regime desperate to weaponize its supposedly world-altering biblical power. Director Steven Spielberg and writer George Lucas explicitly designed the film as a loving tribute to the pulpy Saturday matinee serials of their own childhoods, packing globe-trotting adventure, archaeological mystery, and breathless practical stunt work into one relentlessly inventive package. Harrison Ford's performance as Indiana Jones instantly established one of cinema's most enduring adventure heroes, equal parts scholarly wit and scrappy physical resourcefulness. Its episodic, serial-inspired structure occasionally prioritizes momentum over deeper characterization, entirely in keeping with the pulp tradition it consciously honors. That tradition is executed with such sincere craft and wit that the film became an instant genre benchmark in its own right rather than a mere homage. Its truck chase remains a landmark of practical stunt choreography. Spielberg reportedly completed principal photography well ahead of schedule, a rarity for a production this technically ambitious. Ford was reportedly a late replacement in the casting process, with several other established actors considered before he was cast in the role. Our pick for the most purely joyful entry on this list, adventure cinema at its most infectiously inventive. Number 5. Terminator 2. Judgment Day, 1991. The same relentless killing machine that once hunted Sarah Connor is reprogrammed and sent back through time to protect her young son, now the Resistance's future leader, from a considerably more advanced liquid metal assassin sent to finish what the original failed to complete. Director James Cameron doubles down on the original's lean premise with vastly expanded ambition, pairing unmistakably groundbreaking CGI morphing effects for the T-1000 with real emotional depth as Schwarzenegger's reprogrammed protector slowly develops something resembling paternal affection. Its considerable technical ambition, at the time the most expensive film ever made, paid off with visual effects that still hold up remarkably well against far more recent digital spectacle. Linda Hamilton's transformation into a hardened, traumatized warrior anchors the film's emotional stakes throughout. That combination of technical innovation and unmistakable character depth is widely considered among the finest sequels ever produced, expanding its predecessor's mythology while never losing sight of real human stakes. Its truck chase along the aqueduct remains a genre landmark. Cameron kept the T-1000's true capabilities hidden from most of the crew during filming, revealing the character's full effects only in post-production. Our pick for the most technically groundbreaking entry on this list, blockbuster innovation matched by real earned heart. Number 4. John Wick, 2014. A retired, legendarily lethal hitman is pulled back into the criminal underworld he left behind after a gang of young thugs kill his dog, the final gift from his recently deceased wife, triggering a single-minded, unstoppable campaign of vengeance against everyone connected to the crime. Directors Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, both veteran stunt professionals, choreographed the film's combat with a distinctive style dubbed gun fu, blending martial arts grappling with tactical firearms work into long, fluid, unbroken takes that showcase true physical choreography rather than rapid editing. Keanu Reeves trained extensively in judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and firearms handling to perform the vast majority of his own stunts, lending the violence real tactile weight and precision. Its richly imagined criminal underworld, complete with its own currency, hotels, and unbreakable codes of honor, expanded into an entire mythology across multiple sequels. That mythology started here, with a deceptively simple revenge premise executed with plainly revolutionary action choreography. Its nightclub sequence remains a modern genre landmark. Reeves reportedly continued his firearms and grappling training for years after filming Wrapped, carrying the skills directly into the franchise's later installments. Our pick for the most influential modern entry on this list, a dead dog launching an entire action renaissance. Number 3. The Raid: Redemption, 2011. An elite Indonesian SWAT team's raid on a fortified apartment tower controlled by a ruthless crime lord goes catastrophically wrong, trapping the surviving officers on the building's upper floors and forcing them to fight their way back down through wave after wave of heavily armed tenants and hardened criminals. Director Gareth Evans structures the entire film as an almost unbroken escalation of hand-to-hand and firearms combat, showcasing the Indonesian martial art of silat with a punishing, tactile intensity rarely matched anywhere else in action cinema. Iko Uwais anchors the relentless assault with striking physical precision, his own martial arts background giving the fight choreography honest authenticity beneath its stylized intensity. Its threadbare plotting exists almost entirely to justify moving from one floor and one increasingly brutal confrontation to the next. That single-minded focus is exactly the film's genius, stripping the action genre down to its purest possible form and executing it with a level of sustained physical craft that few films before or since have matched. Its corridor knife fight finale remains an all-time genre benchmark. Evans and Uwais developed much of the fight choreography together on location, adapting sequences around the real building's cramped stairwells and corridors. Our pick for the most purely, relentlessly kinetic entry on this list, action distilled to its absolute essence. Number 2. Die Hard, 1988. A New York police detective visiting his estranged wife's Los Angeles office Christmas party finds himself the only obstacle standing between a group of ruthless heist-disguised terrorists and the skyscraper's other trapped hostages, forced to fight barefoot and outgunned through ventilation shafts and stairwells one floor at a time. Director John McTiernan largely codified the modern single-location action template here, confining the entire story to one increasingly damaged building and using that confinement to generate relentless, escalating tension rather than limiting the film's scope. Bruce Willis anchors the everyman hero role with unfeigned vulnerability and exhaustion, treating each new injury and setback as real physical cost rather than consequence-free spectacle. Alan Rickman's coolly cultured villain in his feature debut remains one of the genre's most quotable and thoroughly menacing antagonists. Its influence proved so total that decades of subsequent action films have been pitched using its title as shorthand, an entire subgenre named after one skyscraper siege. Its ventilation shaft crawl remains iconic. McTiernan shot much of the film in a real, still under construction Los Angeles office tower, using its unfinished floors for several key sequences. Our pick for the genre's own defining monument, the template nearly every entry on this list is quietly in conversation with. Number 1. Our pick for the finest action film ever made, Mad Max Fury Road 2015. One quick note before we get into it, this is the boldest call on the entire list, ranked here above the genre's own most quoted classic Die Hard, and we are prepared to defend it. A haunted wasteland drifter becomes entangled with a rebellious imperator smuggling a tyrant's 5 captive brides to freedom across an unforgiving desert. The entire film unfolding as one relentless, nearly unbroken chase across the wasteland's war rigs and sandstorms. Director George Miller, returning to the franchise decades after its original trilogy, insisted on achieving the overwhelming majority of the film's stunts and vehicle carnage practically, using real cars, real drivers, and real desert rather than digital substitution, giving the chaos a tangible, bone-rattling weight modern blockbusters rarely attempt anymore. Charlize Theron's Furiosa shares equal, if not greater, narrative weight with Tom Hardy's returning title character, a structural choice that gives the film unexpected thematic depth beneath its relentless spectacle. What sets the film above its genre's own most quoted touchstone is exactly this sustained ambition: 90 minutes of practically executed, meticulously choreographed vehicular carnage that never once lets the tension or the craft slacken. Its production design remains a genre-defining achievement in practical world-building. Miller reportedly storyboarded the entire film as a continuous visual sequence before writing a full script, treating the chase itself as the story's true backbone. Our pick for the single most sustained achievement on this entire list: a chase movie that never once stops proving what practical filmmaking can still achieve. So there it is. 50 different ways cinema has figured out how to make your pulse race, from a single office building under siege to an entire war rig thundering across a desert wasteland. Action has always been the genre that proved spectacle and craft were never actually opposites. That a perfectly choreographed fight or a practically shot car chase can hit just as hard as any quiet character drama. These were our picks. Tell us your own favorite. Tell us which stunt sequence we left standing outside a list of 50 entirely. And if any of these are still unwatched, clear your evening. This has been Movie Blanket Club.